Welcome to Search Talk Live, the search engine optimization and marketing experts Robert O'Haver and Caleb McKelvin, powered by the Robert Palmer family of companies.
Welcome back to Search Talk Live on a wonderful hot Tuesday day, depending on where you're at.
It's definitely hot in here in Orlando, for sure.
Yeah. Big day today, because today is our 1-year anniversary of Search Talk Live. Is that awesome?
I'm telling you, man, it's amazing. You know, we've always talked about how we just started this just to have something fun, talk a little SEO on the radio.
Right.
And then here we are a year later.
I thought it was going to last maybe 5, maybe 10 shows. And then all of a sudden, here we are a year later.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing.
Well, that's a lot of credit to our listeners, Robert. You know, they've been growing consistently each month, and they've been, we've got a lot of awesome feedback from the show, a lot of help. We really appreciate everybody that listens out there, that asks questions, that interacts with us, everything like that. It's been a great year. It's amazing the guests we've had. Yeah. Like, literally, it's amazing. We got another great one today, but it's awesome that we've all the guests we've had, the content that we've put out, and it's all helped to our guests and our listeners. We really appreciate all the help we've gotten this past year. Yeah,
let's give my co-host Caleb McKelvin a hand.
Yeah, there it is. Oh no, man, it's a tough job, Rob.
It is.
It is a tough job. You've been doing an awesome job, man. It's couldn't do the show without you for sure. You put a lot of hard work in, so I appreciate it. And after 1 year, we got a perfect guest for our 1 year episode.
It flew by. I mean, it's just crazy. But those of you tuning in for the first time to Search Talk Live, every week we talk about digital marketing. We talk about everything from social media to content marketing to paid search, everything. We have people from Google and everything, people of influence in the industry that talk and give you the best advice on making your business, a success online, or even if you're helping other companies, make you better at that. You know? So, and those of you that haven't been to our website, searchtalklive.com, you can sign up to our newsletter there, get up-and-coming shows that are coming. You can get past shows. You can listen to some previous episodes of the show. What else?
Oh, man, you get our newsletter for upcoming shows. Check out searchtalklive.com. Get on Twitter during the show. Get your questions out. Use hashtag SearchTalkLive. Actively monitor that during the show so we make sure we get your questions on air. It's the easiest way to do it. If you don't feel comfortable on Twitter, you can always email us, Caleb at searchtalklive.com or Robert at searchtalklive.com. Love to get your questions on and get those answered throughout the show.
Yeah, now we're also on iHeartRadio. You can listen to us there. If you do a search for Search Talk, we'll come up under the Palmer Radio Network. We're also on iTunes and Spreaker. Yep. And speaking of Spreaker, our guest today, you want to introduce?
Yeah, absolutely. Joining us all the way from Italy, we have the co-founder of Spreaker. And if you listen to the show or follow the show at all, you know that we're big fans. We use the platform a lot. But we have the co-founder of Spreaker, Francesco Baschieri. How you doing, Francesco?
I'm great, guys. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, man.
And congratulations for your 1 year anniversary.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, your platform has definitely had a big part of that and helping us get to where we are today. We really appreciate it. Just to kind of kick off the show, Francesco, if you could just kind of tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, kind of what you do and what you're all about.
Oh, as you guys said, I am Italian. I've been the co-founder and the CEO of Spreaker. That's actually how I pronounce it. But as we had a short conversation before the show, I mean, I think everybody's free to pronounce it as they like.
Right.
And I've been doing this for, I think, the best part of the 6th year right now, because we founded the company officially in 2011, but we've been around for 1 year before that. Mm-hmm. And so this has been like my full-time occupation for the past 6 years, as I said. So that's where I come from. I'm as a background a computing engineer. I haven't written luckily probably a single line of code on Spreaker though, because I mainly focus on the business side instead of the technology side.
Right.
I'm very proud of having had the chance to assemble such a great team of people working for us. Spreaker is a actually one of those remote first companies. We are right now 15 individuals working from different corners of the globe, actually. Of course, from the US, but we have guys in Germany, Italy, that's where me and my co-founders are from, Spain, Lithuania, and I mean, you name it. And we'd like to get people on board who would like to be digital nomads as well.
Right.
And so I'm so excited to and I feel proud when you guys say that you've been on the platform for 1 year and you're celebrating it today, and you didn't tell me that. So that's kind of like, wow, it was a great surprise for me as well.
Yeah.
And as a background, I mean, before being involved with this, I've been an entrepreneur again. I had a previous company which was doing a very different thing. We were in the Bluetooth hotspot market. Basically, we made Bluetooth beacons for proximity detection and transmission. Founded the company back in 2006 and sold it like the year before we started Spreaker, 2009. Before that, I mean, been working here and there, doing various jobs, mostly in software development and project management. And now I found something. I've been doing this for some time, and it always feels like something new.
Yeah.
And I learn something new every day, and that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have any podcast background?
No, I don't, actually.
Nice.
That's a surprise.
That's very surprising. When we started, I think, back in 2011, I started doing this podcast, but basically as a sideshow, not as a main host, with one partner of mine who started the company. But that at the time I was living in San Francisco, and when I moved back to Europe, I kind of quit that type of career as in the showbiz, and I haven't gotten back in doing any kind of show since.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've had, to me, I'm easy to please, but to me, we've had tremendous success on Spreaker.
Yeah. Love it.
I mean, we've had, in the year we've been on, and it started out slow, and it was kind of, like, okay, this is not going to work out. But it just all of a sudden, it just caught on, and we've been just not even looking back. I mean, we've got like 17,000 plays this year, the first time. So that's probably going to double after, because our audience is built and built and built, and we continue to get, thousands of followers we have now. So, I mean, it's just been fantastic. And I kind of wanted to have you on because there's so many businesses out there that can show that their expertise and their knowledge and share that and possibly help them bring in customers just by, showing that they're an authority in the industry, and a podcast is probably the best way, if not one of the best ways to reflect that,
Yeah.
I totally agree. And thank you for the kind words. Obviously, I think there's something good that probably Spreaker has done for you, but also, to be totally fair, I also think it's been a great couple of years probably for audio and podcasting in general. So the medium is growing like crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interest in the medium, and that also, plays a huge role in this growth that you're seeing in your figures. And I really think that for the next year, probably double is the lower bound of what you're probably looking at, because the overall market is growing at probably 50% year over year.
Wow.
And you've been established in the industry for a while, so you're probably growing faster than the market. You're probably looking at 150 to 200% in the next 12 months.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now it's very interesting because you're right. The whole the podcasting and the audio content, it's growing. People are utilizing that, on their website, in their blog, to reach their customer or just to deliver that information. So as y'all see that grow, are y'all working on anything to help supplement that, or are you trying to make any developments or advancements in your platform to help people as they advance through this type of content?
Man, we're very ambitious. So our goal and our vision is that we want to develop the most comprehensive platform for managing audio. We found that back in 2010 when we started, there were a lot of gaps in the industry product-wise, and there still are. So there's a lot of stuff that we are already developing and deploying in production that goes exactly in this direction. If we are successful, if our users are successful, so we're going to do whatever it takes to get their and your content in front of interesting listeners.
Very good. Now if you could walk us through kind of like, what all there's some great features like with Sprecher. You can not only just upload to Sprecher, you can, when you're doing your show, like right now, our show will be disseminated through Sprecher to iTunes and YouTube and Twitter and all those other great places and all in one place. It's just a fantastic feature.
Yeah, you nailed the core of what we want to create, which is basically an aggregator or a publishing platform. We want to be the single central point where you place your content and it gets distributed to everywhere your listeners are. It doesn't make sense as of today to bet on just one platform because there's, especially in audio, a lot of fragmentation. And even if there wasn't a lot of fragmentation, why do you want to, not to serve some of your listeners if it doesn't cost you anything? If it's free to reach 10 more listeners, if they why do you want to forfeit that opportunity?
Yeah.
So we're trying to, especially if you're a small business or even a big business. I mean, these are 10 potential leads that might change completely the outcome of your quarter, for instance, or the future of your company. So the idea is we want to create a platform that is end-to-end, but is also open. So you can get out of the platform, get your content out of the platform, and get the playing stats in, or you can get content that is born outside of the Spreaker platform and just use it as an additional distribution platform. We have this kind of open philosophy in our product, but the idea, I think that the real main idea that we're trying to execute on since our inception is that we want to be to make something very, very easy for content creators, because at some point when we looked at it like 6 years ago, and we're in 2010, and I mean technology was already pretty advanced like today, and it was, if you wanted to create a podcast, you just went online and there are all these guides, and it seems like if you want to be able to create a podcast, you need to have first a degree in audio engineering and then a degree in software engineering to figure out how to get your hosting space, to figure out how an RSS feed works, how to submit to all these platforms. It was like really, really complicated, and you need to use even if the softwares themselves were user-friendly and easy, but you need to use multiple pieces of software. So what if people don't want to download a piece of software to create and edit their podcast and then make a subscription with another service to host their feed and their media, and then subscribe to yet another service so that they can compute statistics and then get their feed and manually submit it to a plethora of other directories where they, by the way, they have to log in if some of these directory kind of proxy the content or copy the content. You cannot see the statistics from your server. You need to log into all these accounts and use a spreadsheet to make all this calculation. And I mean, it didn't make sense. We wanted to kind of streamline the whole process. So we started building it. And as of today, we're very satisfied of what we have built. I think we have really the only solution that has on one side a complete creation application where you can basically mix your voice or multiple microphones with sound effects. music bases. And on the other side, we have our own distribution app on Android, on iOS, and on the web, which has, great numbers. We, on our own platform, we reach 6.5 million unique users per month, plus all the listeners that we reach through iTunes, through YouTube, because, by the way, we also distribute podcast as videos on YouTube, through SoundCloud, and through all the other platforms. So that's what we've built.
Very nice.
Yeah, and I'm tickled about is the power of a podcast is looking at you have analytics in the account too at Sprecher. I can look here and I can see 55% of the listeners are in the U.S., 7.4% in the U.K., which is quite amazing. The U.K. being so small, it's a large percentage. But all over the world, we've got listeners everywhere, and I think it's amazing.
Well, you're creating content around the topic, which is very interesting for a lot of professionals all over the world. And you speak English, and a lot of people understand English, and they enjoy listening to a podcast. That's why you probably have listeners worldwide, all over.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is when you were mentioning mobile apps. You guys, if you have a podcast, that you can actually create your own mobile app just for your podcast, right?
Yeah. And that's, I think that's a really cool feature. It's not understood by a lot of our users. Of course, you probably won't have millions of downloads of your app, and the vast majority of people listening to your podcast will find you through iTunes, through the Spreaker app, through other distribution platform.
Yeah.
However, having an app on both iOS and Android is very important for two big reasons. The first reason is branding. It's like having a website, right? Having the digital business card. You need to enable people to find you if they hear your brand or hear something about you. People, what they do is search about you, about your brand name, or about your content. And people search on the app stores as well. And they can find you if they look for your brand. But also, and that's the second reason, they can find you out of serendipity if you tag your app with important keywords, if you play well with description. So, it's not going to be, again, millions of users, but it's going to be very, very specific leads that you get on your app, basically for free, and new listeners that can approach your to your podcast in a very cheap acquisition channel. That's why I think it's very important.
Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's the other thing too. I'd say 25% of our traffic is downloaded on an iPhone, which is pretty incredible.
Pretty cool.
But like you said, for branding purposes, that you're if you're hitting all those mediums, you're going to have more listeners. Even if it picks up one or two more a month, it's, more than you had before.
Right. Any progress is good. Well, if you're just tuning in, of course, you're listening to Search Talk Live. We appreciate you joining us for our 1-year episode, special episode today. We appreciate you tuning in. We are joined by the co-founder of Spreaker, Francesco Baschieri. Really hope I'm pronouncing that correct. Perfect. There we go. I like it. Yes, you can get your questions in. We were talking about the Spreaker platform. We were talking about podcasting for your business. Get your questions in using hashtag Search Talk Live on Twitter. We'll get those on air as soon as possible. We are sponsored by the Robert Palmer family of companies. You can go to robertpalmercompanies.com. Check out everything they have to offer. Definitely suggest that you do that. All right, back to the show. Now, Francesco, I think one of the big things that people they see as an obstacle is, one, they don't really understand how to create a podcast, and it's kind of intimidating when you think about, okay, I'm going to go on air, I'm going to record something, I'm going to put it out. It all seems kind of complicated. The Spreaker platform kind of simplifies it. Can you kind of talk about that and how easy it actually is to get involved and produce that kind of content?
So I really, really think that the hurdle here is to get your first episode, even if it sucks, but to get your first episode out.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm fighting for all the time, because there's a lot of people that before even starting with their first episode, they want to read everything about podcasting. They want to learn a lot. They want to do a lot of classes and instructional videos or actually live classes with a teacher. And I mean, there's nothing wrong about that. But in my own experience, most of the vast majority of these people are so intimidated that they end up never starting their own podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if you don't follow the guidelines that these guys are teaching, probably in the long run, your podcast is not going to be that successful. But my point of view is that you don't need all these overhead before you get started. You actually need to experience the fact that talking to people on a microphone or having conversation is one of the most natural things that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, if you want to start a podcast, I really think the easiest way to start a podcast is actually to do a conversation with a co-host. And today you can do that on Skype and record it or live stream it. I'm a big fan of live shows. Because one thing that, especially at the very beginning, because contrary to what the perception is of most people, live shows, also in radio, need way less preparation than taped shows.
Yeah.
You see that in radio all the time. If you go around the studio, I mean, the host gets there the morning, like literally 10 or 15 minutes before the show, reads a couple of headlines, and then he just starts talking. Of course, there's a lot of experience behind that. But also it tells you that, I mean, you don't really need to prepare a lot in order to do something that's enjoyable by the audience. Absolutely. On the contrary, if you do something taped, you end up spending a lot of time editing, and you're never happy about your creation, and you never publish. And that's the biggest problem today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I mean, me and Caleb, we have a good connection. We can talk, and because we both know the subject we talk about, and it kind of goes back and forth. And I think people appreciate more the conversational tone instead of trying to make it all perfect and edited and all that stuff.
Right. And I love the point that you made is at the beginning is that if you don't get started, if you try to analyze everything and make everything perfect, then you're really never going to do it. And so I can tell you, for those listening who have been with us from the beginning, we'll be the first ones to admit that our shows they sucked on the front end, but we were just getting comfortable with it. We started having those conversations. We realized, how it worked, what we could do, what our listeners wanted to hear, the information we need to provide. And we just kind of learned and developed as we went along. Yeah. And now we're much more comfortable on air. So if you're out there thinking about, should I start it or what do I need to do? And like Francesco said, I need to take these classes, read these books. Yes, read those, but, get started. Pick something that you love, you want to talk about, you can have a conversation about and just go with it. It's not going to be perfect on the front end, and you'll be able to fine-tune things as you go. But just get started with it. Just do it. Yeah,
I think I deleted the first 5 shows we did.
Man, they were bad.
Absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
But once you get into it and you get to know it and do it, it's not so intimidating, and it actually starts to flow for you. It's not that bad.
Yeah. And doing it live is fun.
Yeah, it is. There's no editing. If we mess up, we mess up.
we mess up. Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. I love it. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. I'm saying I'm probably biased because I come from the entrepreneurial community and the startup scene. And I mean, we have this way of saying, everybody says that if version 1 of your product doesn't suck and you're not embarrassed by it, you probably waited too long before launching, right?
Right.
The right way to approach this is to do something that just works or kind of is like good enough, like the minimal possible thing, and then iterate and make it better. But it's key that you get your product, whether it's a piece of software or a podcast or a blog or whatever, like whether it's content or technology, but in front of your audience as soon as possible so that you can get feedback, hone us, grow with them. And I mean, I don't know if it's like this with the podcast audience, but the tech users, especially at the very beginning when you give out the product that people are not paying for, you get beta testers, they are striving to help you. A lot of people will help you no matter what, will tell you exactly what you need to get better.
Yeah,
for free.
Absolutely, yeah. And we, it's definitely trial and error, I'll have to say.
It is, for sure.
But, I mean, nowadays, you can take, I mean, the sound quality is not going to be as great. But, I mean, if you don't want to go out and buy a studio microphone, nowadays you can take an iPhone or an Android phone and speak into that and use that. I mean, you've got the Spreaker app now that you can actually record your show right on that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the expectations are not too high, and there probably aren't because you're not going to have like GE sponsoring your first episode, right? So
right.
You can do whatever you want, and you will have an audience that will appreciate it as long as you don't sound like you're talking to a fishbowl. But I mean, sometimes it's fun. Even that it's fun. So
yeah.
Just go with the flow.
Yeah. So in the near future, do you see podcasting and audio content kind of taking over? Is that how people are going to want to digest their content online? Because it's quicker, it's easier, or you can kind of dictate what you listen to, what you don't. Do you see that kind of being the main form of content?
Probably not the main. The truth is that we already consume audio, video, text in the most part of our days in very specific situation. What's going to change is the fact that a lot of audio today is consumed through terrestrial radio or satellite radio.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to shift to different platforms, which are more democratized, right? So there's a barrier to entry to FM, which involves building actually a tower, getting a license, or doing something, and the radius is like pretty limited. This is going to end, like it ended with video, like it ended with text. But then again, content is king. So people will be listening probably maybe slightly more to a slight bigger amount of audio of what they are listening today, because there's probably going to be more offer.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that people maybe today don't listen to that much audio, but it's changing fast, is that probably the offer is not good enough, not specific enough to target what they're exactly interested in. And but this is a gap that podcasting are filling quick. So you see nowadays a lot of people listening to podcasts where they commute, whether it's on public transportation or in the car. And that's the big game changer when it's getting for everybody, for the vast majority of the population, as easy as turning on your car stereo to listen to a podcast. Then the play field is leveled, and then if you have quality content, you can become big. The big players, the big media companies know this because it has already happened with text, it's already happened with video, and so they know that it's going to happen with audio as well. So they're getting prepared. They're upping the game a lot. What you see with the early days of blog, I mean, if you check it out, some of the biggest properties that you see today on the web started out as blogs in a garage. It's true in TechCrunch and Mashable started like that. It's true with the properties like the Huffington Post or Vox Media or SB Nation. I mean, all these were companies, content-based companies that are still challenge, and sometimes have defeated the media giants like the big newspapers, right? In video, so and so. Also because it's like way more difficult to create a video than to create a good text article. Yeah, I think that audio is more similar to text in this respect, because it's not that hard. I mean, you guys are doing something great in terms of quality. You have an audio engineer, but apart from this, you're probably on the higher level of the spectrum. Mm-hmm. But if you just are okay in talking to a microphone or maybe in your phone, for many people, that's all you need, right? Mm-hmm. And you're already creating content. While at least with video, you need to place a camera, maybe comb your hair or dress or get dressed. You don't need that with audio, right?
Yeah.
So it's easier, and it's interesting. But I don't think audio is going to be a revolution. The real revolution is that the channel is going to change, and guys like you can challenge iHeartRadio in terms of the content that they provide. If you provide better content, people will have the option of choosing one show over the mainstream produced show.
Yeah, and it's on demand.
And it's on demand, yeah.
No,
they're going to have content on demand as well.
Yeah, we love things on demand. It seems like everything's on demand these days. Pick and choose.
Yeah, and I've had a YouTube channel. I still do, but I don't get on in front of the camera. I prefer being in front of a mic where nobody can see me.
Oh, man. I got looks for radio, I'm telling you.
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, for some people, the more content you produce, the more effective. Mm-hmm. And in 1 hour, you can produce probably, 40 minutes of good audio, with 20 minutes for the setup, and maybe less than a minute of good video. So it's a no-brainer. If you want to produce a lot of content, you need to drop video and focus on audio.
Yeah. The other great thing, too, about having the, using Sprecher or even just having audio files, you can translate those into text. And you can do your show as the audio file on your website, and you can take the
transcription,
and put that on your blog as well, and that's indexable, so you can it'd be good for SEO.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. From a content standpoint, I like taking audio stuff that we do, break it into sections, expand on those sections. I mean, so if you're actually looking for content out there and you're like, okay, well, how can I diversify my content or expand on things? This is a perfect opportunity. Create that podcast, whether you have guests on or whether you're just talking with a co-host. If you're on for 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it may be, and there's some out there that do it very well. I know Gary Vee's a popular one. Gary Vaynerchuk's a popular one, does it very well. Kind of breaking up. He calls it micro content, which is something that can be useful. But if you want to diversify your content, podcasting and audio files are a fantastic way to go.
Yeah, and we surveyed our listeners, and one of the questions I asked was an hour too long, and everybody said no, it's just right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's fantastic,
right? Yeah.
But
and also, what we're seeing is that people consume content in a different way than when there were linear media, right? Mm-hmm. I look at myself. I love podcast transcriptions because I get to work in the morning. Part of my job is figuring out what's happening out there. And I skim through all these transcriptions, and I get an idea of what's going on and what's happening. And I see, oh, wow, this is interesting. I'm going to read a bit more, and then I'm going to bookmark this episode so that I can listen to it later on when I'm commuting back home or when I have some time, right? So there are different layers of, of connection with the content.
Yeah.
And also, what we see on our platform is that on-demand content is listened to for an average of, I'd say, 25 minutes, which actually resonates very, very well with the length of the average commute. So, maybe a podcast which is 1 hour long is usually consumed in a 1 hour stint if you're listening to it live. But it's a different experience because you can you as a listener, you feel part of what's happening because you can potentially interact with the host or with the guest. You can ask questions and do stuff. On the other side, when it gets recorded and it becomes a podcast to be consumed on demand, you can listen to it like 20 minutes at a time or 30 minutes at a time. So maybe you listen to half of it during your morning commute and the other half of it on your afternoon commute. The thing is, you don't really know how your listeners are going to consume your content,
right.
But you need to give them the freedom to do all these potential ways of interacting with your content. And if you do that, you'll see the results.
Yeah. The other thing I think is amazing too with the analytics is you track listeners on iTunes and you track the listeners on YouTube and everywhere else you distribute to, right?
Yes, we do. And since we also have our own distribution platform, for the plays that happen on Spreaker itself, we have way more information, like the time spent listening on each single episode. Mm-hmm. We will give you pretty soon the ability to see what the drop-off point is. So when your listeners are tuning off, so maybe you see that there's something weird with the content. We also give you demographic information because some of our listeners sign up to the platform, and we have their demographic details. So you get a better idea of what your demo is. And this is, fundamental information if you're developing your podcast into a business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look at that all the time, and it's funny. Our demographic is 25 to 54. I can tell that right away. It's good stuff.
Very nice.
Male or female? Probably more male skewed, right?
Yep, it's 16%. Female.
It's interesting. We see that varying a lot, of course, with genres, and it's probably I think of the last couple of years, there's a lot of female audience getting into podcasting lately. A couple of years ago, your figures would have been the average of the whole Spreaker platform is what it was, like very, very male skewed. Yeah. And now we're roughly at 50-50.
Wow. Nice.
Because more genres are developing and men are more interested in different genres. At the beginning, it was like more tech and business and this kind of stuff, which is very much male skewed. Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yeah. So do you see any niches or genres that are performing better, or any on the rise, from the podcasting standpoint as far as listenership goes, any kind of standing out right now?
So what is hot today in podcasting, I think everybody is seeing that, is comedy and serialized content. There's an appetite out there for content that can be consumed like fiction stories or journalism stories, and say the usual 10 to 15 episodes of a season, right? Mm-hmm. Because people are used to this on TV or on HBO or Netflix, and they want to have the same experience when they're consuming audio, maybe during their morning commute. Of course, I don't see any reason why whatever is working or has worked in the past in radio cannot be translated into podcasts or on demand, with a caveat. I think one of the big errors that the radio made, actually, I don't think it's probably not an error, but it turns out now that that's the weak point. They made content that is suitable for a huge audience. Mainstream content means that it's not that good for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. I really think that the key in podcasting, like with all digital content, is go through niches, and there are literally every kind of niche that you want. There's people interested in everything out there, and they are underserved in terms of audio. And the other problem is that they might be served well by some pieces of content. That's the other problem that our task solving. It's hard to discover it. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, long form content like podcast, it's not usually going to go viral. If you think of podcasts like TV shows or series or movies, they don't go viral. You rely on word of mouth, on your friends telling you, oh, you really have to watch this show because it's great, or on magazine and press that do reviews of content. Mm-hmm. And it's probably going to be the same with podcasts. I think it's hard to think of this as a form of content that is going viral, like cat GIF pictures.
Yeah. The other thing too is, I mean, if a business owner or a person that's wanting to show their knowledge and stuff, and using a podcast being a great platform for that, they can showcase that stuff on their business. It doesn't even matter if you're a plumber or what. It could be anything. They can showcase that on the site that this person is an expert or professional and knows what they're talking about.
Totally. I mean, it's as we said, it's easier. You need some preparation, but you don't need a lot of preparation.
Sure.
You're talking about your business or a field that, I mean, you know what you're talking about. But I really think that the key word here is passion.
Mm-hmm.
When you sell and when you're promoting yourself as an expert, you're basically selling your knowledge and your expertise. When you sell, you also have to speak to the heart, not just to the head, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people want to hear passion. It's very hard to convey passion in writing. It's easy to do it, and on the side of listeners to detect it when people are talking to you, when people are speaking. And it's way more convincing. It's way more powerful.
Right.
You're literally getting to the head of people. They can perceive the energy. They can perceive the passion. They can perceive the I mean, they can trust you because they hear you talking, and it's a powerful weapon.
Yeah.
And that's, by the way, why podcasts are so hot also in the advertising community these days, because listeners trust the hosts.
Yeah.
They do.
I can see your passion, just you explaining that. That was well said.
Yeah. There's that emotional engagement, which takes your content to a whole nother level. Absolutely. And you can build the trust with your listenership. Mm-hmm. When you can build that trust with them through content, through written content, they really, they might get a certain feel, but it's really kind of in the eye of the beholder, so to speak, on what they're actually going to get from that, from you actually speaking to them and portraying it through the audio. There's going to be a universal understanding of what you're trying to say and how you're saying it. So that brings a whole nother perspective into your content pieces.
Yeah. I'd have to say, too, the reason our podcast has done so well is because we're consistent. We have a show at the same time every single week. Everybody knows when to come listen to us, when to come, or when they can download the newest show.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of the one things we saw as a major challenge on the front end is, are we going to be able to do this every single week? And I think a lot of people out there who are trying to get their podcast going or thinking about what challenges may lie ahead is the consistency part. And it's kind of like your blog, you don't write one week, take off the next,
right?
Or not write for a month or so on. There has to be a consistency there. Well, they know every week you're going to be on Tuesday, 3:30. They know they need to tune in or set a reminder or have a notification. But that consistency is big time, and it builds that trust and gives something for your listeners to look forward to. But without consistency, you're not going to grow.
Yeah, and do the podcast on something you're like you had just said, something you're passionate about.
Yeah. About consistency, totally agree. I mean, the number one cause of death podcast is pod fading, and as the word says, I mean, it's not something that happens abruptly. You first miss your publishing date by, I don't know, one day. You say, oh, this week I'm going to publish a couple of days late, or maybe I'm going to skip this week. And next thing you know, after a while, you basically stop podcasting.
Right.
And this might work with blogs. I mean, some bloggers just do a post every now and then, and the content stays there. But the way people consume blogs is different. Most of the content gets searched and served by people searching, like they're not 1 year from now or 2 years from now to that specific type of information. But the real power of podcasting is, like, as you said, creating this event and this the space where you engage your audience and you build trust and credibility and expertise week after week after week, and that's so powerful. So another tip for people who want to start podcasting is do not overdo it. Don't start with a daily show. If you don't know that you can do it, start with a weekly or bi-weekly show, but be sure to be consistent. Don't change your schedule over all the time because it's not going to work.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, as we move into the second half or the end of the show, not the second half, towards the end of the show, we thank you for tuning into Search Talk Live. We still got a few minutes left. We are joined by our special guest, Francesco Baschieri, the co-founder of Spreaker.com. Like I said, of course, if you are a fan of the show or have been with us for a long time, you know that that's a platform that we use to amplify the show and reach our listeners. So if you'd like your questions, we're talking about the platform Spreaker, and we're also talking about podcasting for your business. If you have questions, you can do so on Search Talk or do hashtag Search Talk Live on Twitter. We'll get those on air as we move towards the end of the show.
Yeah, the other great thing too I like is when we share our shows on social media. You can actually on a lot of the platforms, social platforms, you can actually play the podcast right there. It embeds right in the post.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true. That's feasible on Twitter and then a few other platforms. It used to be feasible on Facebook. We kind of changed the approach for some reasons. First, because Facebook only allows to embed third-party players if they're made with Flash, and we didn't want to continue doing our player on Flash. You need to have a special relationship with Facebook to embed an HTML5 player. And this turned out to be because they want to develop their own player, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff, it's going to change on Facebook, and I think it's an exciting opportunity for podcasting as well, but needs to be figured out. So we're probably doing something with Facebook in the next 6 months. On the contrary, Twitter is a very open platform. So with Twitter cards, you can basically access the podcast. See, by clicking the play button, you can also access the whole track list of best episodes, the chat box. Everything is available right there.
Yeah, it's very nice and convenient.
Right. So as we kind of move in, just a few questions. So do you have any advice for people who maybe have a podcast that's not gaining that much traction? Maybe they've been doing it for, so many months and getting a little discouraged, yet they've kept at it. Do you have any advice for them on how they could possibly, grow that podcast, grow their listenership, and kind of move in the right direction?
Well, the thing is, there are very simple things that every podcaster should be doing. And when you ask them, it turns out that the vast majority of them are not doing. So let's say that you have launched your podcast for since a few months back, and you're plateauing at let's say 100 or 200 downloads slash plays per episode, and you want it to be much bigger, but you're stuck there and you don't know how to get bigger. Well, I really think that the answer is you already have 200 people listening to your podcast. Why don't you ask them? Why don't you reach out to them and ask who they are, get in touch with them, figure out how they discovered your podcast, what they look into, because probably you did something that kind of worked, and you can double down on that to amplify it. That's usually the easiest path. Reaching out to your audience, asking for feedback or asking for help is great, and the podcast audience is usually willing to help. If you're doing this, if you have done this already, of course, the other tricks are basically tactics. It's not a big strategy, but your goal is to be everywhere. You can be discovered, of course. So as I said before, share your content on every social media platform, be on all the podcast directories possible. Of course, post your podcast on iTunes because that's a directory where people get content. All the app get the list of available content, but also be sure to be in platforms like TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Spotify, if you can get into that. Actually, we're working on something like that. So, I mean, there's a number of outlets where your podcast can be. The other thing is maybe reach out to bloggers or writers to let them know something about your podcast. Interview some of these guys so that they get you visibility in return. I mean, there's a lot of tricks that you can do to get more listeners. But the trick, the most important thing is not to let existing listeners drain out, actually keep them active and get feedback from them. And all of a sudden you probably find the key to go to the next level, and then the next level and the next level. Growth is usually as the shape of a staircase. I see that this even with the company. It's not a straight line. It's usually a peak, fast growth, and plateau. Then you try a lot of things, and you find what's working, and then you quickly grow, and then you find the following plateau, and so on and so on.
Yeah, it took our show. I'm looking at the analytics right now, and October, November, and December just kind of really low listenership, and then January it doubled, and in February it doubled again, and then March was like 20% increase, and then it doubled again, and it was like, oh my gosh. So I mean, if you hang in there long enough and you have good content, that's key too. Having good quality content,
right?
Just like when you're writing, it's the same thing.
And you said another big truth, actually. I really think there is no substitute for time when it comes to branding. I see this with companies as well. I mean, just the fact that you stay alive, you have your brand out there for a long enough period of time gives you more credibility. And it's non-linear. I mean, it as you said, it takes you probably 1 year to go from 0 to 50, and then 1 month to go from 50 to 100, because all of a sudden it explodes and people remember, oh, I heard this name before, or maybe 2 or 3 different individuals told me about the show. Maybe I need to check it out. So it's, to some extent, you need to be consistent and wait and have some faith, because if you're not a famous personality, it will take some time to establish your brand. Yeah. The good news is that when you start your second or third show and you're already at a personality, you can build on that audience.
Absolutely.
But if you start from scratch, before your brand and your content gets known, it's going to take some time, and word of mouth is slow. But people, if you create great content, people are going to tell about it to their acquaintances, and you're going to grow eventually.
Yeah, and if people want to sign up for it's free to get an account there, correct?
Yes, it is free. We are a SaaS company using the so-called freemium model, so we have a free tier, which I think it's pretty good to get started with the show. It gives you 5 hours of storage. We sell storage based on hours, not on megabytes or gigabyte, to make it easier. So let's say that your show is at the beginning, I don't know, a 30 minutes show. You can host the first 10 episodes. So if it's a weekly show, probably for months and a half before you need to even consider upgrading. If you want to do live shows, well, we limit the duration of live episodes to 15 minutes on the free account, but it's a good plan to start. And of course, if you want to get more serious and have one of the pro account, they start at $4.99 a month, and they go up. But with $4.99, you already get 100 hours of storage for your content, which is plenty of time for your archive. You get some more stats and some more things.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we did. We started with the $5 one, and then as our audience grew and as we decided, hey, we're going to keep going, we just slowly stepped up with the plans. And, we love it. So, yeah.
Yeah, we made some experiments. We figured it out, but the point is, we targeted our plan so that we want to grow with our listeners. It's tricky because we are not the usual podcasting platform because we have this live component. So we need to factor into the plans two things that are usually the discriminants in terms of capacity for different plans, which is the archive size and the live broadcasting time for a live show. And we cannot have like 100 different plans tailor made for every specific usage. So we have 4, but I think we have done a good job of like putting together the most common use cases.
Very good. Well, we're about out of time. We have about 5 minutes left in the show. We want to thank you so much for being on and giving your insights and advice and tips on becoming a podcaster.
Absolutely.
And I highly recommend, guys, and I don't recommend too many things, and you can ask Caleb, and he's not paying me to say this, but Sprecher is awesome.
Yes.
We have used it for a year now. We have, and you can go and look, we have over 17,000 plays of our show, which is amazing to me. And it's a great platform to start on because A, you can distribute to iTunes and everything else right there from the one account. It's very simple. As soon as we get done with the show, it's out there.
Yep.
We have to do nothing.
Does a lot of the work for us.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's something we definitely recommend. From if you're wanting to get into podcasting, diversify your content, and how you want to deliver that, this is the platform that you need to go on. So it's excellent. But Francesco, we really appreciate you joining us. We know it's late where you are, but thank you for coming on our 1-year anniversary of the show. And dropping some knowledge on us and just spending some quality time with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Had a lot of fun. And I feel like I've spoken too much, but sorry. Couldn't tell.
Excellent. And I'll email you a link to the, to the show. I was going to say, wait a minute. He's do I need to do that? No,
No, we'll get it out. No, absolutely. After the show, we'll be sending this out. You can always go on searchtalklive.com. If you miss any part of the show, it will live live on Search Talk Live. It will also be live on Spreaker. You will can catch the recording of the show, or on iTunes and the many other channels that we are on. So I definitely recommend that you go check that out.
Yeah. Thank you very much, man. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening to the show.
Yes.
We are on every Tuesday, 3:30 to 4:30 Eastern Standard Time. Me and the Caleb over there.
The Caleb. I like that. Make sure you go to searchtalklive.com. Check out past shows. Sign up for a newsletter.
Yeah.
Just go do it because we had an awesome show today. We got another one next week. We got one. Actually, we got an awesome show every week, Robert.
Yeah, but next week we've got Michael Roberts, which is the founder of SpyFu, which is one of my favorite tools.
Yes, absolute excellent tool.
So I'd highly recommend you listening to that show. You can get some insights on that tool.
But sign up for a newsletter. You'll get all the updates as they come out for each show, special offers, everything we got going on. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being with us for the past year. We hope that we have delivered the content that you like, met your needs, and made it enjoyable for you, and hopefully we have another good year.
Oh, yeah, and also I wanted to add, too, you can now call and leave a voicemail with your question.
Nice.
Yeah, if you go to Twitter, I'm trying to find the tweet right now. Where is it? There it is. Okay, so if you want to call in, you can call 407-490-2588. Call with your questions, leave a voicemail, and we will answer it live on the show.
Yep.
Yeah, see you next week, guys, and thanks for your support.
Yeah, have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Search Talk Live is a presentation of the Robert Palmer family of companies.